Believe it or not, as a person who runs a history YouTube channel generating literally dozens of dollars in revenue, I spend a lot of time looking at historical primary sources. Most of these are bland, very boring, not cool, and it's rare that one of these makes me say, dang, that's pretty cool. This video is about one document that made me say, dang, that's pretty cool. In this Learning Lodge video, I'll be talking about the causes of death in London from 1632. It's more interesting than it sounds, I promise. The document we're talking about today is one of many such documents called Bills of Mortality. Bills of Mortality were an interesting yet horrifyingly grim aspect of historic English life that is hardly ever spoken about today. These Bills of Mortality were weekly stat sheets that listed the number and manner of death for every death in the city of London between 1603 and 1853. Basically a statistician's wet dream, these were documents designed to warn Londoners about dangers in their community so they could practice adequate precautions. A bit of a side question for the listeners out there who have way bigger brains than I do. Does anyone know if anyone gambled on these sheets? I could see some degenerates putting a few shillings on the over-under line of measles deaths, but I couldn't find anything out there. Right here is an annual report from 1632. Why did I choose a report from 1632, you might ask? Well, this is the one that went viral on Twitter a few months ago, and like I said, I make dozens of dollars on these videos. I'm really trying to up those numbers. Take a minute and take a good hard gander at this document. I bet you're able to notice some familiar ailments here. Plagued, drowned, and worms seem pretty straightforward. I also really hope you notice that some of these are wicked whack. Causes of death like King's Evil, Rising of the Lights, and Teeth are all pretty out there and damn terrifying, especially when you consider how many people apparently died of teeth. So let's break this down line by line and explain what really killed these poor Londoners. Hopefully you guys get as much of a kick out of this as I did, because in my opinion, this rules. 445 abortive and stillborn. Starting off with a super grim one, this cause of death encompasses all children who were born without life. One person was apparently frightened to death. Basically, this means that they were scared to death, which most likely means a heart attack after something shocking. Maybe some severe arachnophobia, or they might have had an encounter with those frightening teeth. 628 people simply aged. One of the best ways to go on this list, these people died of old age. 17 were killed by apoplex and megadrome. I had to do some digging for these, and I found that apoplex is an old-timey word for strokes, or spontaneous internal bleedings. Megadrome is another word for severe headaches and aneurysms. These are referring to probably some sort of internal head injury. One poor sod was, quote, bit with a mad dog, which is a theatrical way of describing either a dog attack or rabies. I personally enjoy the fact that they said bit with a mad dog and not by a mad dog, which paints a picture of someone using a mad dog of some sort of improvised weapon. Pretty cool, London. Pretty cool. 3 died of internal bleeding, which is self-explanatory. 348 were killed by the bloody flux. Yikes! This one describes those who died of bloody diarrhea or severe other poos. It's important to note that cholera outbreaks were not uncommon in the city in this time period, which likely raises the number. 28 are listed under bruised issues, sores, or ulcers. This likely describes any sort of skin infection or physical bruising. Only 5 were burnt or scalded to death, which is actually a lot lower than I would have expected for a society that didn't rely on the electric light. 9 died of burst and rupture. This one actually depicts a, quote, break, tear, or splint in the surface or structure of the skin or other tissue. Basically a neat way to say death by cut. 10 died of cancer and, quote, the wolf. Cancer is something you should all be familiar with, and the term wolf has been used as a synonym for cancer since the 13th century because of its perceived connection between a wolf's devouring behavior and the progression of malignant cancers. One person died of canker, which is a chronic, non-healing ulcer. This likely would have become infected, which would have easily become a death sentence. 171 women died in childbirth. This is the second childbirth-related item on our list, showing just how hard the process was back in those days. We next have the largest number on the list, with 2,268 children or infants / chrysomes, which was a term used for children less than a month old who weren't able to be christened yet. The common cold killed 55, and colic, stone, and strangury killed 56. Colic, stone, and strangury are other words for severe abdominal pains and kidney stones. Next up, we have consumption, which is the second biggest killer on the list, with 1,797 deaths. Consumption is the age name for tuberculosis, which is a coughing disease that would sometimes wear down and, quote, consume their victims. I thought convulsions were vomiting, but according to our sources, it's more likely that they were referring to a disease similar to tetanus here, where the body would stiffen and draw up. Either way, convulsions killed 241. Next, we have another quirky one, with 5 dying of something called cut of the stone. Those who died in this way were trying to avoid becoming part of the 55 who died of kidney stones by undergoing surgery, but died in the process. 6 were likely so impoverished that they are listed in the category for dead in the street and starved, which is actually the most accurate description on this whole list. 267 were killed by dropsy and swelling. While dropsy sounds like some sort of lovely clown who you would not want holding your child, it actually means swelling of the limbs, lungs, and brain. 34 drowned in some way, shape, or form, and 18 were executed or were pressed to death. Check out the related short on Giles Corey if you want to learn more about this horrific method of punishment and execution called being pressed. 7 died of falling sickness, or as we know it today, epilepsy and seizures. 1,108 died of fever, which takes bronze in the competition to kill the most Londoners. Fistula killed 13. I tried my best to find out what fistula is, and the best description I can pull is something about a long, narrow canal or ulcer found in someone's body. I don't have the medical knowledge to properly understand that, but whatever it is, it sounds super gross. Smallpox, chickenpox, and cowpox killed 531, while the French pox, other known as syphilis, killed an even dozen. Don't ask me how the poor French got blamed for syphilis. I don't think I'm allowed to answer that on this channel. Gangrenous injuries killed 5, while 4 died of gout. 11 died from depression and melancholy and were lumped into the grief category. Jaundice, characterized by the yellowing of the skin and late-stage liver failure, killed 53, and 8 died of jaw fane, which is lockjaw. Impostume killed 74, which is a lot to die from pus-filled abscesses. One of my favorites here, 46 were killed by several accidents. Picture someone getting kicked by a horse into the tracks of an oncoming carriage before getting hit in the head by a falling piano. I guess England was a lot closer to Looney Tunes than I thought. King's Evil took the life of 38 Londoners, which is tuberculosis and swelling of the neck. It got its name because it's believed that the touch of a king could cure this disease. Apparently the king wasn't in a touchy mood this year. 2 died of lethargy, which could either be depression or chronic fatigue, or even something like narcolepsy, which to an untrained doctor could just appear as someone being extra lazy and lethargic. 87 died from liver grown. I'll be honest here, there was a lot of debate on what this name could mean, but likely something to do with a non-functioning or wounded liver. If you look into how much alcohol people in this time drank, I don't think that was much of a surprise. 5 deaths are attributed to lunatique, which is the French word for a madman or lunatic. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to find anything about whether these deaths were caused by lunatics or deaths of lunatics. 15 are listed as having made away with themselves, which is a pretty respectful way of saying suicides. 80 died of measles and 7 were murdered. They spelt it with a TH. 7 children were laid on accidentally by a parent or were starved/not able to gain nutrients through milk. 25 were killed by any kind of palsy or muscular disorder, and 1 person died of piles, or hemorrhoids. Only 8 died from the plague, which I'm proud of London for. I'm glad to see they were able to figure out some germ theory and washing their hands. Way to go. 13 died after being, quote, struck by the evil force of a planet. This planet sickness was used as a broad term to describe any sort of madness or mental health issue that sent people into a rage or apparently incomprehensible reasons. Pleurisy is swollen or filled lungs, which could also be related to tuberculosis, and killed 36, which is just 2 less than were killed by the purples. This could mean either of 2 things. One option is that it's related to the dark red/purple smallpox, which is the deadliest form of smallpox, or it could mean a harsh bruising. Both these items are already listed on the record, so it's hard to tell which is more likely. Kinsei, or infected tonsils/tonsillites, killed 7, and 98 are listed under, quote, rising of the lights, which is a combination of choking and lung failures. Apparently lungs were called the lights because they were lightweight organs in Anglo-Saxon verbiage. I haven't weighed any organs in my day, but I suppose this makes sense. One person had the honor of dying of scatia, which is a medical term we still use today. It means numbness in the leg and can be caused by any number of ailments including stroke, nerve damage, or spinal injuries. 9 were killed by scurvy. Popular with pirates, scurvy is a severe vitamin C deficiency that causes your gums to bleed, weakness, and your skin to fall apart. A personal favorite description of mine goes to the 62 who died suddenly. It's items like this that really make you recognize how far we've come in terms of medical diagnosis. Imagine calling a professional in to check out the body, and the best they can come with is, yeah, they died. Suddenly. Well, what'd he die of? Suddenly. 86 died while surfing? Oh no, surfette. Bummer. I thought we finally had another cool one. These deaths are all linked to overeating and gluttony. Causes such as diabetes, heart disease, and other complications for obesity can be lumped here. 6 died of swine pox because there weren't enough poxes going around. Now we finally get to teeth. While 472 people being killed by teeth might give you inclinations of bad gingivitis, but it's actually a whole lot sadder than that. According to historian Linda Payne, some deaths were categorized according to the ages rather than the diseases that might have killed them. Teeth were babies not yet able to get through teething. Bet you feel like a real ass now, huh? 40 died of thrush, which is a yeast overgrowth of the mouth or genitals. 13 died of tympany, an abdominal tumor, or other bloating/digestion issues. 34 died of tisic, which is a cough. This can also refer to the coughing and wasting away of tuberculosis, but being as they have this as a couple separate categories, I think this is more cough related. 1 puked himself to death, and 27 were eaten by some sort of worm. And that brings us to the end of this document, and damn near the end of this video. If you felt like you enjoyed this video, I'd love it if you subscribed so you can see more like it. This style is a bit different than our usual content, so please let me know in the comments your thoughts. Also, leave your favorite cause of death in the comments below. Personally, I think it's hard to top suddenly. Thanks for watching.